From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Chuck Todd and John Mercurio.
It's Hotline TV. I'm John Mercurio.
I'm Chuck Todd. We're kicking off our week of holiday cheer with a look at the best campaign of 2006. That's actually the best losing campaign of 2006, Johnny boy. First, let's check out our top three nominees. Each of us have three nominees for the best losing campaign of 2006.
Well, we each actually have two nominees for three different categories, as I recall.
Okay, we'll do it that way.
Let's do it that way, all right?
Since
that's the way we plan to do it, let's do it that way. We have two nominees, as I said, for each category: House, Senate, and gubernatorial. Let's start with House.
And we losers. Guys that lost.
But it's the best losers.
Yeah.
But it is the best losers.
Even the losers
who, in a different year, might have run better, or given
won.
a couple of different things, might have won.
But
exactly.
Even the losers.
Let's start with the House.
Get lucky sometimes.
Let's start with the House. Even the losers get lucky sometimes.
Thank you, Tom.
Darcy Berner was a 35-year-old nobody, let's be frank, running against somebody who had been King County Sheriff in Seattle, in Washington State, Dave Reichert, a Republican.
The most famous criminal in the area of all time.
Correct.
Yeah, the Green River Killer.
The Green River Killer. And she came pretty damn close. They had, the election went way past Election Day. He only won by less than 1,000 votes. She ran a pretty good race for somebody running her very, very first congressional campaign. In another election year against another opponent, she actually might have won.
And I think, some will say, well, geez, she's a Democrat, she couldn't win in this year. I'll say this, she created this race herself. She raised a bunch of money. Emily's List helped her out, got in early. The D-Trip was not believers in this race for a very long time.
Sure.
And then they finally got in. She sort of had to prove herself as a fundraiser.
Right.
It was on that front that made her an impressive campaign. I'm still not sure she still was a green candidate, and I think that's what came across. But she mechanically put together a pretty good campaign.
She learned a lot, though, over the past year. I saw her speak at the DNC meeting in Chicago, and she was really, really green. But I saw her right before the election, and she was much more experienced.
Let's move over to our other nominee, Clay Shaw. This was a guy who I didn't think was going to run again. He lost out. He was told he wasn't going to get the Ways and Means Committee post. Well,
chairmanship,
again, who would have given a damn now, right?
Right.
He lost that to McCreary. So he seemed like he was going to just mail it in, and he didn't. He ran a great race. He raised a ton of money. He worked his tail off, as he always does. It's just this time everything was going against him. Mark Foley,
Mark Foley, the same media market.
They share that media market.
He is someone who has run. It's almost amazing that he's actually still wanted to run for re-election, as you were talking about. I mean, he's been run ragged on so many different occasions. He's about 70 years old, recovering from cancer.
Yeah.
And probably should. Looking back, probably
wishes he had retired. Right?
But ran a very good race against Ron Klein, who raised more money than God.
You know what? And I'm giving the hottie to Clay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think we give the hottie to Clay.
Well, we can. Okay, yeah.
All right. You want to wait?
We're just making this stuff up as we go along.
You want to wait?
People.
All right. You get it. Wait. I get it.
Let's go to the next to the Senate.
Governors. Let's go to governors.
Let's go to Senate because we're going to do federal, and then we're going to go to governors. All right.
Fine.
There we go.
Whatever. Nobody cares about governors.
Two nominees. Harold Ford Jr. Ran, of course, Democratic candidate, congressman in Tennessee. Ran a great race. Ran an excellent race. Nobody, and this goes back to Darcy Berner. Nobody gave him a chance a year and a half ago. He was the no-one candidate. Not no one. He was the congressman from Memphis who wasn't going to be able to run statewide. He ran a very moderate campaign. Ran a disciplined campaign. Smart, articulate guy.
I think he ran a good race.
I thought he ran a very good race. Look, he made me a believer, and I was not a Ford believer.
The 48%, to me, is incredibly impressive, more than I think any of us expected. Proved to me that it wasn't race is why he lost. He lost because he didn't have the Tennessee value. He lost that Tennessee values voter that thought, you know what, this is a D.C. cat. This is not a Tennessee guy.
But he was able to, the fact that he even got to 48%, considering he's someone like Al Gore who basically grew up in D.C.
I hear you. I just think that he overplayed the Ten Commandments stuff. He overplayed the church stuff, making the value stuff of, wait a minute, this is a guy that likes to hang on a Playboy party. This is a guy that
that's why they responded.
partier. Yeah. And I think that actually, had they not overplayed that hand, they might not have had that one lone vulnerability. So, look, I think he ran a good race. I'm not as everybody else said. Ooh, wow, he's the greatest thing. Good race. I don't think it was great yet. But will you go get married, Mr. Ford? Get married, and I think you'll win. The other one we got to put up, Jim Talent.
Very good candidate.
I mean, this is a
very
guy.
Good senator.
He was very prepared from the get-go. He was nervous. They raised all the money they were supposed to raise. They did everything you're supposed to do as an incumbent.
It never ceases to amaze me how Missouri plays itself out as
I
the
can't figure it
bellwether
out sometimes.
state. He
So true.
was not tainted with scandal. He basically reflected that sort of moderate to conservative values of the Missouri voter. Missouri. Well, it depends on where you're from.
But he represented Missouri. That's my point.
Well, no,
He was
actually,
better
you can
at
be
Missouri
from.
than he was at Missouri.
All right, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But he really represented, I think, what was going on this election year. The Missouri Senate race did. He lost, I think, because of a national trend, not because voters in Missouri
He lost because
were upset with him.
He didn't have the guts to tell George Bush, stay the hell out of Missouri. Don't come the last week of the campaign. Finally, our two governors.
Let's give it to talent.
I'm with you.
Let's give it to talent.
So now we're giving them the way we did it the first time. Once
Sure.
again, just winging it.
Making it up as we go along,
All
people.
right.
Bear with us.
Finally, we go to the governor's races because I know everybody's so anxious about governor's races.
That's why I wanted to do them last.
The drama should have been with the Senate, but that's okay. First guy.
This is like a bitter, but don't touch me. You're a bitter, bitter man.
I don't got the itchy eye. Don't touch me. Let's start with Idaho.
So inside Hotline.
Let's start with Idaho. Jerry Brady. This is a guy who put a race in play.
Yes,
None
he
of
did.
us really believe.
God
the DGA,
love him.
What was really funny about this is that the Brady campaign would tell us, we have polling that actually shows us ahead, and when we'd be like, yeah, whatever, show us. And you talk to DGA, and DGA goes, oh, the Brady campaign, they don't stop calling. I don't believe it until they see it. And sure enough, they did their own polling, and they showed Brady ahead. And yet he lost. At the end of the day, he lost.
He
lost
lost.
to one of my favorite guys.
The tight fitting jeans, sure, but
Butch Otter.
Butch Otter, tight fitting jeans,
But hey,
winner
he
of the
put a race in play.
1992 Camelback Bar. But I think the fact that he ran against a relatively not flawed, but not the strongest candidate, didn't run the most disciplined campaign, I think makes him a little bit less of a winner.
I agree,
than
and I kind of think it was more of a winnable race, and they sort of didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to. They knew how to make it competitive. They didn't have the next phase of the campaign.
Right.
All right, let's move on to your home state.
It is my home state. It's
Bob
a state I
Ehrlich.
love. It's a state I call my
Bob
home.
Ehrlich,
Are you
our
making like
nominee.
a parent's joke? The fact that I live with my parents?
That's okay.
Bob Ehrlich, the incumbent governor, the Republican. Bad year for Republicans. Probably would have held this seat if it hadn't. He would have held this seat if it hadn't been a bad year. He had favorable ratings that dramatically outpaced his unfavorables. He lost because it was a bad year, basically.
Yeah.
And I think he had a weak lieutenant gubernatorial nominee as well.
Yeah, but I don't think that stuff can factor at the end of the day. I mean, I think he just lost because the state's so blue. He lost.
She brought nothing to the race, but anyway, that's a whole
I
subject.
hear you, and I agree with that, but I think these running mates, sometimes we overplay the running mate stuff. Look, he did what he was supposed to do. He beat the crap out of O'Malley over his stewardship of Baltimore.
Which plays well in the D.C. suburbs.
Absolutely, except, there was the strong tide of anti-Bush and anti-Republicanism coming from the Washington, D.C. suburbs, I think just made it was just unelectable. There was just no way he could pull this off. But he did everything he was supposed to do right. So for that, Ehrlich gets the hottie. So Ehrlich, Shaw, talent.
Good people.
Republican sweep,
Good.
mind you.
I know. Well, there were a lot of Republican losers to choose from.
Of the loser hotties, but those are our three favorite.
You did good jobs. Come on back. That does it for today. Come back tomorrow, and we'll insult the winners instead of the losers. Until then, I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Chuck Todd. We'll see you tomorrow on Hotline TV.